Hello, it's Brad Laurie of BlockchainBrad, and today we're speaking about all things EasyFi. And to do that, we have the co-founder in the hot seat right now. His name is Ankitt Gaur, and he's here to explain all things about EasyFi. And for all of you who are wondering, this is entirely free. There is no compensation involved. This is about education and information. Ankitt, thank you very much for being with me to explain all things EasyFi.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome, mate.
Pleasure.
Now, we haven't spoke much before. It's time to get stuck in, mate. Let's go. Layer 2 is the buzzword right now for you. We've heard this term before for many years. So let's explore what it means for EasyFi. You explain in the information in all the AMAs you've done, it's about lending protocols for digital assets in the context of layer 2. But let's explore deeper. What does it mean specifically when we think of EasyFi in the context of the layered stack that is the blockchain?
Okay, so essentially, there are a couple different angles which makes EasyFi unique. First of them is it is completely built upon ground up on layer 2 solutions. We have begun with Matic, which is now Polygon, and gradually we are going to also touch upon other layer 2 solutions like Binance Smart Chains, etc. in the future. So the main genesis behind this was that the making a transaction on Ethereum blockchain was becoming more and more expensive for people, which was filtering out smaller retail investors or smaller transactions. It were becoming completely impossible on Ethereum. I mean, you can't pay $800 for moving $80. That's insane, right? So that was first motivation, which got us to decide upon building a solution on layer 2. Now, in decentralized finance, lending protocols are the backbone of DeFi. So the obvious choice was to work in the lending space because me and my co-founder, we both come from the business and tech backgrounds. So we realized like we need to go on a money market protocol to be built upon layer 2. That's where we started.
Okay, there's so can I just jump in there? There's so much in that to unpack. One of the things that was interesting is you mentioned how there was some bottlenecks. You inferred that with some of the gas costs, we're facing right now, and you're addressing that by making sure, I would assume you're agnostic by design, because you mentioned Polygon, and they're well known for being that layer 2, but they are branching out to various layer 1s. Is that fair to say so far?
So basically they are a side chain, but now they're going towards the parachain model.
Okay.
Similar to so they are basically making Ethereum a Polkadot.
Okay. So do you want to like backtrack a little bit and help us understand? Because in the terminology that many of us are used to, many people would argue that Ethereum functions as a layer 1. And then we obviously hear that the underlying structure, often afforded with parachains, becomes that layer 0. So in the context of Ethereum, how do you fit Matic and yourselves in that context when we speak about that?
So basically, you can understand Matic as Ethereum on top of Ethereum. So Matic has its own side chains, which process the blocks and transactions into a bigger block, which goes onto the Ethereum blockchain, which averages out the per transaction cost. So that is the Matic's structure. So as I said, like there is Ethereum, which is at layer 1, and then there is Matic on this layer so at this layer is where EasyFi is working. So every transaction that is processed by Matic, they're all pulled together and being moved to Ethereum actually. So there is a backup hash which goes onto the Ethereum after a set of transactions are processed on Matic.
Right. And the reason I ask is because when I spoke with Sandeep before, often we reference in his context the layer 2, and hence I'm asking you because you are also a layer 2. So things are shifting clearly. Now, I wanted to ask you about Binance Smart Chain as well, because you referenced them yourself. They've come out now. They've also arguably utilized the Ethereum code to their benefit and built on that to improve and tweak. So where do you fit there? Obviously being in India as well, you cover a broad, and vast region that's very pro crypto and certainly pro dev and pro blockchain. So again, moving back to the agnostic position, I would assume you're moving in that realm where you're trying to position yourself so that you can be valuable, not just to the Ethereum network that definitely needs more layer 2.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we are saying, that EasyFi is moving towards being available on multiple layer 2 solutions, where we are going to be facilitating the possibilities for users to get benefit from the other functional offerings that EasyFi is bringing. So as I said, there are two sides of EasyFi. One is the technical offering, which is more about layer two and simplifying the switching between multiple layer two solutions. Like we are working on an automated bridge for moving between BSC and layer two and Matic. So in times to come, in like third quarter of this year or maybe fourth quarter, user will not realize that did his loan come from, whether it came from BSC or it came from Polygon.
Right,
So
and
so
that's
so
good to know.
that is one technical side of EasyFi, and then the functional side of EasyFi is essentially all the money market protocols that exist today are highly collateralized, and the big problem that they have is there is enormous amount of supply capital of which is available in the DeFi, but there are very limited avenues for deployment of capital. So and the efficiency of capital comes from its deployment. So EasyFi's main goal on the functional side is to enable more and more efficient capital deployment options, which means there are different kinds of loans that we are working towards, so that the placement and disbursals of loans becomes efficient. Hence, the correct flow of capital will align with the dispersal.
Yes, that makes a
And
lot of sense.
that is the functional side of EasyFi, and that's what we are heavily working on.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I want to go back to the code for a moment, but go back to the protocol, and then I want to discuss the products. So that's what you're alluding to. Now, in the protocol sense, I want to better understand. Obviously, origins were to support the Ethereum network with Polygon. We know that, but also, all right from the outset, there were very strong connections with Sandeep had explained with Binance, with the Binance Smart Chain, with the Euro Asia zone as well. So, what about reaching out in the protocol sense, in the technical sense? Is there a likelihood of more bridges to come as well? So I better understand what the plan is. You referenced Polkadot, for example. I'm imagining there'll be bridges come to Cosmos at some stage. So just how well situated are you as a protocol before we even talk products and services and suites of offerings that you'll be providing?
Yeah. So as I said, we are working. So first, as a first step, we started by deploying the protocol on Matic Layer 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then we are going to be deploying the protocol on Binance Smart Chain, and then as we will go further, first there'll be these island deployments, and then there is going to be an interconnected bridge for all the EasyFi users. So when they are interacting with EasyFi, they don't know where the capital is coming from, and EasyFi will act like an aggregator of all the money markets liquidity across multiple layer 2 blockchains.
Great. So on that sense, I wanted to ask you before we touch on I think the most important part of the conversation is the products, because I want to hear what the offering will be. But when we talk about those tribalistic responses we're hearing right now from maximalists, I'm sure you notice them as well. They're almost in a conundrum. And the reason I ask is because so many people like yourself I'm talking to, they are directly working with the likes of Binance Smart Chain, for example, but we're hearing a lot of feedback from maximalists about the CeFi to DeFi war. So I really want to, I find asking you and all other founders the most important people to ask, because what is it like when you read that? And what does it mean for a real business when you're trying to forge ahead, especially in a region like India, where we have, problems with access to money, and revolutionizing finance is imperative for really affecting major change around the globe. So Is it really even relevant to be talking about CeFi DeFi at this stage, given so many of you are all moving in the realm of the continuum itself? You're working with both sides and everything between.
Yes. So essentially, if you look at in the today's current crypto ecosphere, most of the people are only limited to buying a Bitcoin on a centralized exchange. That's a maximum amount of people, right? Mm-hmm. But the shift that we are trying to build via our products is essentially to solve and harness the real consumer needs. And we are and in that direction is where the products, and as I said, the functional side of EasyFi is moving towards, to solve those needs where people do not really matter to them whether it is coming us from CeFi or from DeFi. So we are trying to give them that kind of an experience with gasless transactions that we are working with, by economy with. There are other players which we are working on for different other blockchains, for giving them the experience of Web 2.0 on Web 3.0. So the essential fundamental here is that a user, we are catering to his needs, irrespective what is the mechanics behind. And the mechanics behind being from DeFi is that it opens up the gateway for scalability. because when you connect just to one centralized exchange or one centralized counterparty, the growth possibilities are not that immense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely you can be working with Binance, which is like the biggest player in the world for blockchain and crypto space. But having said that, there are people who do not want to go through or provide the capital via a centralized exchange.
Exactly.
So if you not have the decentralized bridge, that real purpose of existence of blockchain goes away.
So let's
So
talk about
so
that. I want to just touch on what you said because it's so valuable. Now, clearly, we know right across the crypto space that Binance is a centralized entity and a business. But when it comes to BSC, I was hoping you might be able to educate us about your position on this because you're an advocate for DeFi, obviously, as part of building and connecting with Polygon, and obviously they are an advocate for that too because they're working with Ethereum to enhance that and many other bridges and pieces of work they're doing. So, where does BSC fit in the context of DeFi when we see very, very aggressive sentiment coming from some parties in Ethereum saying that, because of the centralized aspects of Binance, should they be conflating that with BSC? I really want to get your take on this.
not necessarily in terms of any kind of force or complement, but definitely considering the marketing reach and the access that Binance has, BSC is getting a very strong adoption, is getting great acceptability, and as a result of which the volumes are very ramping up very fast on BSC in terms of either you talk about the DeFi volumes or either you talk about the TVLs or you talk about the trade volumes. So there's definitely a shift happening on there.
And would you consider that to be DeFi as well, Ankit? That's what I really want to learn from you is people associate DeFi with Ethereum mistakenly, I would argue, because DeFi is an agnostic term.
Yes.
But
So considering DeFi to be Ethereum is completely wrong. DeFi is all about where you are able to transact as per your intent without being reliant on any one particular central party. The layer 2 solutions are not yet as decentralized as Ethereum, for sure. I agree to that. But that there is a path and steps to everything, right? Ethereum itself was also not as decentralized as in 2016. I've also read somewhere with people saying that Binance Smart Chain is only going to as low as Ethereum over a period of time. It's only a matter of transactions. No, it's not the case, guys. The consensus mechanism, the whole philosophy on which Matic, Binance Smart Chain, and other all these other layer 2 solutions are built is entirely different, and that is the reason why ETH 2.0.
Right. Okay.
So it's not just about the traffic; it's about the core underlying architecture and the structure of the core blockchains on which this is being built. So definitely, the DeFi is a chain agnostic stuff. To answer your question in specific, it is not just about Ethereum. Binance Smart Chain is as much DeFi as Ethereum, or Polygon is as much DeFi as Ethereum. No doubt about it. Yes, they may not be as decentralized as Ethereum as of today, but there is a path to everything. That's what I would say.
And thank you for clearing that up because I think we hear a lot of maximalist narratives out there, and we really do need more people like you speaking, on behalf of your team, on behalf of what your understanding is fundamentally and technically, and even functionally, as we're talking about. And for transparency, if anyone's wondering, there is no special kickback for me in terms of asking some of these questions that relate to Binance in any way, but it is important we understand the agnostic nature of DeFi, in the broader context of, what we're trying to represent, which is essentially finance today, understanding what protocols and what products are available to really change the game and enable people all around the world to perhaps shift the paradigm when it comes to finance more broadly. So let's talk about that, because that's perhaps one of the things that does differentiate you from Polygon, in that you are very much geared for that product suite. You're really building on making sure very soon those users can benefit from the blockchain without even knowing. And that, to me, is what matters in 2021 and also beyond, because really that's what it should be about, changing the game for everyday users seamlessly. So tell us a bit more about these products that you do offer utilizing the layer 2.
All right. So we've started with basic collateralization lending products which exist on Ethereum, like Compound and Aave. As a first step in progression, what we are trying to do is enabling more innovative collateralization options. For example, with all proof of stake blockchains like Matic, Binance Smart Chain, Tomo, and many of these proof of stake based blockchains where people have assets of those specific chains for running the nodes, and they sort of have deployed their capital in terms of the tokens of those blockchains.
Mm-hmm.
But these tokens are getting stuck. Your capital there is getting stuck, right? And that led to the concepts of liquid staking. So there are many liquid staking companies which are coming in. Now the point is, with that liquid stake, what can you do, right? So we are enabling people to stake those, put those liquid staking tokens as a collateral on EasyFi and take a loan against it. So essentially, your position in Matic is still active and earning a certain percentage of reward, and then against that you have the derivative that you get as a which represents your stake in that particular node, that you are taking and bringing to EasyFi, putting as collateral and taking a loan against it. No protocol is doing it right now. We are the first one doing it.
Right. Now, that's exciting. In India, sorry to interrupt, but I remember years ago there was already some, I guess, backlash from the top down, and the Indian people who were involved in crypto really didn't like that, and they responded in kind. So how do you go about trying to navigate through the very muddy waters of regulation in India, for example, and even more broadly across the world in different parts where it is challenging to identify and classify the kind of token that is related to you in the context of the two things you're talking about so far, which is the protocol and then that product, related value as well. Because if we're talking about utility, it has many different facets. And one of them is finance, clearly, which is thus money, which is thus implications of saving, and interest and staking. So how do you go about it? It must be tough because especially in India, there's a lot of rigor when it comes to determining what you can and can't do. And they've already shown that they're willing to wield with an iron fist.
First and foremost, except me and my co-founder being from India, there's nothing Indian about EasyFi. EasyFi is global, decentralized application, right?
Right.
So we are essentially just working as this thing, and this being a decentralized application, that's the beauty, right? So we are not touching upon any country's thing. EasyFi is not just an Indian product. It's only being made by Indians, right? It's a product made by Indians for the world. Basically, it's like that.
And what about
I tell you another interesting fact. Today, more than 60% of people who are chatting about in Indian groups and into the things are from outside India, from countries like Vietnam, from countries like Eastern Europe. And I'm just telling you these numbers based on the observations in the chat group that I observed in the Telegram group.
Right.
Most of the chatter is coming in from outside countries, so it's not just from India.
Yeah.
If I tell you about the ratio of conversations, because there is a reason for that. On the European side, there is a huge amount of idle capital that is there, and when we brought in a correct amount of incentives, the flow of capital onto layer 2 was enormous. We were able to clock 44 million worth of TVL in first 24 hours.
Wow.
So that was commendable, right? Then on the other side, on the borrowing side, the amount of interest that we are getting from people to launch these stake assets, the derivative assets based loans is again humongous. People are understanding the value we bring. So just to put it to numbers quickly, right? So imagine you invested $100 in Matic and you stake those $100 worth of Matic to get a staking rewards. Now that staking rewards is right now on Matic nodes is 28%. So essentially you are getting $28 on $100, correct?
Correct.
Now that $100 you get as a liquid staking derivative, you take that $100 worth of collateral, bring it to EasyFi, and put it as collateral and take a $70 worth of loan. Immediately, it reduces your risk into the position of Matic by 70%. So now your actual exposure to Matic is only $30.
Mm-hmm.
while those $30 is earning a reward of $28, right?
Right.
And imagine here you paid even if 5, 6%, 7% loan as interest, the net cost is a positive of 22% on $22 on 100. Now $22 on $30 exposure gives you 70% exposure.
Okay, so the collateral on flow, essentially, in a nutshell, is really what's affording a lot of opportunity here in the way you design this. It means that people can capitalize on layer two with a Polygon, build upon that, and again, it goes back to that user for the benefits. Now, I would like to see more people around the world benefit from that, including India. That's why I asked, because yes, you, of course, being a decentralized team, and anyone can go and see your team, it's obvious that you are a global entity. But, at the end of the day, we want to see the underbanked. We want to see people who don't have access to sort of 24/7 finance in this way with these kinds of numbers we're talking about benefit from this. So I want to pull back a bit to that question of how do we achieve this when there's rigor in some countries, ironically, where perhaps it's most needed. And what is the state in India, given you are a founder of a startup that's global, but you are living in India, I would assume, where it's needed? So how do we break into these regions that are sort of desperate for this kind of change?
So this is going to take time, to be honest, Brad. So similar to what happened with e-commerce, right? In India, or even in the world, e-commerce did not exist, did not I would say perform very strongly until 2007-8, especially India, if I tell you. Though Amazon existed since 1996-97, I bought my first online book in the year 2000, whereas in my country people did not even know, forget buying, that there is something called e-commerce
Wow.
there,
Wow.
because there was a trust issues and everything. And then gradually the infrastructures were built, and things were there. But for that, the concept, the acceptability, the products have to be there. Today, if I tell you, the blockchain space is innovating, is moving fast for the adoption, for the satisfying that hunger. But
Mm.
still, for the mass adoption stage, mass consumption stage, it is a bit far.
Right.
So
Well, thank you so.
reaching to that level where we can say that everybody is using it, it's a little far. But yes, the preparation is what is going on in the blockchain space, where the infrastructures are set up, the products are being built, so that when they are being served to the masses, it is just as simple as a buffet.
Yes, exactly. And I knowing your country, it's so pro dev and pro blockchain, and they would be experimenting from the top down. So it'll only be a matter of time until they want to catch
Yeah.
on, and play ball. But I also want to ask you, because you are a numbers man, you clearly know your stuff. When it comes to volume with regard to EasyFi, can you teach us a bit more about that? And I also wanted to ask you about the risks, perhaps, of front running in a general sense in this space, because we do see a lot of questionable conduct happening in different areas, and there's an underbelly potentially in some places as well. In dark places, dark people. So how do you navigate those problems as you're trying to build your volume, trying to build legitimacy, trying to build real use cases and prove that users are working and using EasyFi in the context of all of this complexity?
Right. So essentially, right now, if I tell you about volumes, we initially our initial hitch was that whether will people move towards on layer 2 blockchain from Ethereum or not. We proved our hypothesis right by that if there are enough incentives, people will come, and we have proven that. Like, no protocol on layer 2 have been able to hit a 44-50 million dollar worth of TVL in first 24 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that drill, that okay, if there is a right in motivation, right incentives for people, they're happy to move the capital wherever they need to. If they're not, there's no Ethereum, being on Ethereum is not a roadblocker. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Second, if you talk about the amount of people using EasyFi right now, that has definitely gone down, because in DeFi space, people look for rewards, farming rewards, and other kind of incentivization.
Okay.
We consciously stopped it because we were ramping up our product in towards the real functional desires that we had, in terms of, like, as I told you, example of liquid staking. Then we partnered with a company called Boring DAO for bringing in non-ERC20 communities to ERC20 and get benefit from DeFi. So imagine you are able to take a loan on Bitcoin Cash, NEM Foundation, LTC tokens on EasyFi via Boring DAO. So you deposit your LTC to Boring DAO, you get a wrapped LTC on Matic, and that is being considered as a collateral, and you are being given a loan.
Right.
So we sort of stopped those farming rewards for that purpose, but we are going to launch that again soon. The moment we'll do that, the numbers will ramp up again.
Right. And so do you have a question?
Because the community that EasyFi has is very engaging and talking, and there are all sorts of influencers which also are watching us in terms of what we are doing in the space and the kind of things that we are working on. So we are having a couple new products, couple new UI and UX that is going to be launched in this quarter, and with that, I'm sure numbers will shoot up again.
Yeah, and I love the transparency. I love the candid talk about the numbers too. I don't have that a lot from founders and, I guess in those representing the very top of their projects. So thank you for that. Now, with regard to the sort of, you mentioned the influencers, you mentioned the liquidity mining as well. It's interesting because it is a flick of the switch, as you know, and when that's turned off, you often get a backlash in the community, that you've been building because they're saying, what's going on? But as you've explained, there's real reasons why that's done and why it gets turned on again. Now, the influencers would relate to key developments, I would imagine. Often that's how it goes. So what can you tell us a bit about some of that roadmap that's coming that correlates with some of the influencers you're working with that will announce some of these things as they come out that's exciting to you, but also most importantly, because we don't want to do the FOMO here, we just want to be real. And I'm getting that sense from you right now. So what's real, what's valuable, what's a real product that is coming that people should be prepared for, because clearly the influencers are going to let us know anyway.
So, like as I said, getting the liquid staking assets as collateral. So this is already published. It's a public information as a roadmap for this quarter. Mm-hmm. New revamped UI UX, completely revamping it because the product has evolved so much from when we launched it 6 months ago, and the speed at which the evolution happens in crypto space is unbeatable by any other industry. So the UI UX revamp that much needed right now. Third is loan against stocks and collaterals as collaterals. So you sort of invest into a fractional stock and then you collateralize that position on the EasyFi. Third is deployment on multi blockchains. And then fourth part is, which is also like, the cross-chain integration for LTC, NEM, and all these kind of assets also being brought in. So these are some updates that are already planned for this quarter, which is like another 40 days to go.
It's fantastic because, at the end of the day, we want to see more products and we want to see more of that seamless use. And ironically, as you'd appreciate, the blockchain needs to be invisible for this to be properly adopted around the world. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but it doesn't need to be known, put it that way. So the thing I most wanted to ask you, clearly there's going to be some engagement with influencers. I've checked and seen that there are definitely some that are supporting you already. But I thought about it and I thought, well, if you're focused on use with these products, why not stretch it far beyond the influences of the crypto world? Because the users around the world who perhaps don't know about crypto, how do you engage them? That mainstream cohort that really are ripe for the picking when your products are paramount, really.
So as I said before, it is a step-by-step process. There are things that are planned in our further roadmap for bringing in people from non-crypto space also into this. Okay. But as I said, it's a path, it's a journey. Right. So first is bringing in non-crypto people into this is a different kind of a challenge to solve. Like you need to explain to them, get them that we are not a banking company, we're not holding your funds. But there are other problems which are easier to solve to begin with in terms of even the people who know crypto, they have so many problems. Why not solve them first?
It's a good point, well rebutted. So let's talk a little bit about your team as well, because it's transparent, but I wasn't sure how big it actually is because often we find more devs once we talk to you. So do you want to give us a bit of a recap and give me some confidence in your team coming from one of the founders so that we know that you have especially that skill set to build out the products, to make sure the GitHub's robust, to make sure that things are still all done and all the checks and balances are made right through, because trust in team in a trustless environment is everything.
Absolutely. So first thing about the specifics of our capabilities, I am personally into this space for more than 3.5, 4 years. I was the first author on a blockchain book targeted for CXOs, essentially because I come from an enterprise technology background. So have worked into the enterprise technology space for more than 15, 18 years. So I knew that bridging the gap between blockchain understanding of how this can help for enterprises requires some material. And that sort of inspired me writing a book. So you can actually go and buy it and read it. I targeted to write it in a way that you can finish it with a cup of coffee. Still
Okay.
with some coffee left, but book will be finished. And so that is that part. And then we have been actively building products in this space. So we have another trading product called CoinFox, which is essentially a Binance broker partner. Then I have a couple enterprise products which are being used right now. So we are not new to this space. People in the community, in the fraternity, know, they're familiar that these people are there. They were in the previous bull cycle, they were active in the bear cycle, and they are again in the bull cycle. So we are not people who just appear in the bull cycle and then disappear.
Yeah, I can tell from your tone as well. Like there's a lot of confidence, which is I think a lot of people are going to appreciate. Clearly, also the relationship between Binance and Polygon has been strong, and I would assume that's also flowed through into EasyFi as well. Because once again, you are clearly a veteran here. So the team itself, I'll just mention, for all those people listening, make sure you do go and check into the team, explore. It's transparent, it's available. Is there anything you'd like to say before we move on, though? Just referencing the team more generally, Ankit.
With reference to the team?
Yeah, just a broad statement because wouldn't have time to go through everyone right now.
No problem. So I am there. Then Anshul, who is my co-founder as well and COO, so he is also a veteran in finance industry for last 12 years. He has been a stockbroker himself. He has been dealing with precious metals, and then he moved into blockchain. In fact, even earlier than me. So though he's not a hardcore techie person, but he understands finance like back of his hand, and he's an essential backbone as well for the product because he brings in a lot of financial nitty gritties which sometimes I may not be able to see through.
Got
So he's definitely a co-captain and a perfect one. And he's also very, very actively available on Twitter, on Telegram. In fact, more than me because I love to be in the kitchen cooking code and concepts,
it.
and he's more of a public guy.
Yes,
So
I actually follow him, and I think he follows me back on Twitter. So it does show he's very engaged. I wanted to ask you as well. Moving on. So thank you for letting me know about Anshul as well. And if you'd like to know more about any of the team members, definitely look through the information that's provided. It's all transparent and available in public. But I wanted to ask you about Matic again, or let's go with Polygon. Now, what's interesting is that they have a tech base, and you love coding. So clearly, there's a marriage there that's arguably made for magic in what you can do, and especially given that they do have their geographical connections. You would probably have known them for some time. So has it meant a lot to you to have that tech base as the layer two / full suite that they're emerging as? Has it meant a lot to have that to rely on because they spent years on that as well?
yes, it has helped a lot. And Matic's team has always been very, very supportive and they've been available because, please note this, we were the first DeFi protocol launched on Matic. So we were the money movers into Matic at that point of time when we started. So there were a lot of challenges that we faced and when we were deploying the product and the onboarding, offboarding, and they were always very, very responsive and supportive to work closely with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that has definitely made our journey easier and simpler. So what Matic stands for, that they are for builders, right? And they have actually been like that. So we have a fantastic relationship with all the founders and all the core tech team members there where we work with.
Well, that's good. So do you regularly speak with the team over there if there's anything that you need or if there's any resources? Is there a lot of engagement on and reciprocal sort of discussion going on?
At least twice a week.
Okay, well, that's good to know. You can't really get better than that considering they're so busy.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask about this token. I had a look before the interview. It's absolutely smashing it out of the park in terms of price. And you're the kind of person who's numbers and clearly code as well. So let's go with the economy for a moment of the economical design. Can you tell us a bit more about the nature of this, how you would sort of classify this? Because we often have these box terms like utility, perhaps, it doesn't quite fit the bill here. And obviously that's all we have, to determine what these are. What would you say, if someone was suggesting that we had to classify this token, what would it be? And how would you, espouse its use, throughout the world in terms of what it's intended for?
So basically, Easy Token has three major utilities. One is essentially a governance, but once EasyFi will have enough adoption, the token holders will and the community will be the deciding factor towards various different aspects. And what we mean is that is already live by Compound, right? So the reference is Compound. So the way you can give proposals for various collateral listings, for various risk reward ratios, and etc., those are being decided by the community, and we want eventually EasyFi also to be driven like that. So that is one of the biggest role in the mid to long term that the Easy Token will have. Secondly, Easy Token, since we are going towards cross-chain and multi-chain deployments, so Easy Token is going to play a very, very important role in multi-chain settlements.
Okay.
So that's where the token is going to be used. And third and the foremost part is essentially the community incentivization, farming products, and all that. So they're gradually expanding the community who will tomorrow become the governance holders for the particular token.
Okay, so essentially you tick the box when it comes to the multifaceted aspect of the utility terminology right now, and that's going to be important right around the world when it comes to assessing utility tokens in the future and even now. So that's important. Now, what about the need for it? Now, you've explained all the utility, and often people sometimes argue when it comes to protocols, they're not needed, but when it comes to products, that they really definitely are because of their use. What do you say to that? Do you think it's all just built into the one engine and all of it's needed?
Yes. So it is built. It is being integrated ground up for, as I said, the biggest, strongest utility is going to be cross-chain settlements. The moment we will start to roll it out to multiple blockchains and bringing in the liquidity from one chain to another, that will be the point. The real, very strong utility for this product, for this token, will start to appear.
Right.
And the other aspects are, as I said, the incentivization for the community, and the most importantly around, as I was saying, towards the incentivization for the loyalty of the community. So those are the kind of things we are definitely utilizing it for.
Got it. So to be frank, because that's how you speak, do you think this is just the beginning for this token? I don't own any for transparency, but do you think that, looking at the charts now, given what we know, given that there's a whole suite of products coming and already the proof of the volume, do you think this is just the beginning of this run?
I would prefer not to comment anything because people make various different perceptions out of those things.
Yes, I appreciate that.
I generally refrain from talking much about the possibilities for token movements and all that. So,
and I appreciate
that's what
that.
Community has to discover.
Yes, and clearly speculation's built into that as well. Respectfully, Ankitt, I understand.
I would not want to comment on that.
Yeah. So, what about with regard to I guess you can comment on this. Do you find it interesting that because speculation's built into it, because community interests, they love to hype it, and because exchanges are all part of this interesting mix, is it entertaining to you that the price of tokens can, more generally, we'll speak there, can actually skyrocket even whilst, the technology and the teams are playing catch up with being busy building things? Sometimes there seems to be such a discorrelate between, or a lack of correlation between logic and hype.
That is true, but that's the nature of the industry right now.
Right.
It is, and it's not only to crypto, by the way, it's also to the stocks and regular stock trading, etc. as well. Like many a times, the prices are not just driven by the actual profits of the company in stock market as well.
Exactly.
So it's the same nature. So that's the ingrained inbuilt behavior of these money markets, whether it is stocks, whether it is crypto, anything.
Yeah, and we see also,
since I come from a stockbroker's family, have seen these fluctuations when I was 10 years old. So this is not new for me.
And we also see the reactions, when we've seen Elon Musk, for example, was just one example of being kind of advocating for a certain, I guess, let's say assets, whether they're monetary assets related to the legacy model or even Bitcoin, dare I say, you've seen the reaction in the market for just someone like him. So I think you're right. I think that right across the board of any money market, if influence is present, regardless whether it be crypto influencers or someone like him, it's going to have a definite effect in that marketplace. So let's move to that. Now, what are your thoughts on influencers themselves? I really want to explore this because there are all kinds of parties that play here, from the CEOs who are working hard to build up their influence, all the way to the front end YouTuber influencer style, who's really, effectively some of them are price movers. So how do you work through that world? Let's be frank about this, because some parties like the price movements side of things. They like to engage with them because they know they're going to have a positive effect. And then there are others who like to move in the more respectful space of education centered, or they like to do the engage with partnerships that are real and that has influence and effect naturally and organically. So how do you approach this? Because there'd be a lot of pressure on you from crypto communities just to get price up, and that's not your job and it's not your position. But I'm sure you can appreciate what I'm asking.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So generally we do not engage in that conversation because essentially it's the community to discover the price and all that, as I said. So we don't really get into that. We are here to build and deliver what we are publishing, and then the community has can engage with the product on that per se. But we generally do not entertain or sort of get into
Sure.
those discussions ourselves.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. Now let's talk partnerships. We talked the products, and we really should have talked more, and we will do that next time, and we can explore that in detail. Now, the partnerships I've looked at there, from BlockPass, which is obviously a very legitimate one, Staffy, Matic, we've discussed with Polygon, WazirX, Chainlink, and the list goes on. I wanted to hear it from you. Are these partnerships, all of them, and any others I've missed, that are absolutely based on practicality, on real reciprocal value, not just those ones we see where let's get together, let's get some buzz. That happens in the space. So I wanted to ask you.
We are very, very selective with people who we partner with, number one. And we always partner with set of companies with a particular objective, aligned, and also aligned with our roadmap. So I tell you, if I start to announce partnerships today, I can keep on announcing until November. But
Well, go
it'll
ahead.
not make sense. It'll not make sense. It'll not make sense because they have to be aligned with the product roadmap. So we are right now. So if you look at, we are working on under collateralized loans, and we wanted a partner who can support us with a KYC. Hence, we joined hand with BlockPass. We initially launched a stablecoin money market protocol. Then we wanted to move towards the variable assets money market protocol. Hence, we joined hands with Chainlink. So there is always, whatever partnerships we do, they are aligned with the deliverables and plans for that particular quarter. And partnerships are done and things are delivered. We don't just do partnerships for the sake of doing partnerships. So I really hate it personally.
Me too. I like your answer. You don't need to answer any more on that point because you made it crystal clear, and I really appreciate that. And we might even put that on, repeat for those who perhaps, haven't been clear or haven't heard that from other CEOs or founders. You've been crystal clear that you hate those fake partnerships, and yours are all about real deal partnerships that do stuff in according to the roadmap as you build. So got it. Now, what are some of the partnerships you're really excited about that are perhaps coming up soon? I guess you can touch on those, because you're not one clearly to press for FOMO, but
I probably would not be able to reveal too much on that. It'll be too much of a revelation. But as I said, people can actually think related. As I said, there's a very clear-cut framework with the kind of companies we're going to partner with that is directly connected to our roadmap, and roadmap is public.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now, what about sort of moving abroad? If we look at the success perhaps in San Fran or New York, two key hubs in the US for blockchain innovation, and obviously you'd appreciate there's many other regions of the world where there's innovation happening: Berlin, Vietnam, India, definitely, all kinds of places. But is there a special relationship you have, or Polygon have with the Bay Area or San Fran? Because when I'm exploring and I'm researching, it seems like such a strength of support comes from there when it comes to Matic.
Yeah, so we haven't yet looked at San Francisco Bay Area yet, but we have very, very strong tie-ups and relationships in Vietnam. I mean, I have enormous working relationship with that country, and that has given us enough reach and access to the communities over there. By the way, I'm a global traveler, so I'm having some people connected all over the world and in all these countries everywhere. But if I tell you, we have a very strong working relationship with Vietnam as of now. US, we haven't yet gone, but we have certain plans. So again, as I said, we will go. Once we go there, we'll go with a very crystal clear purpose and mechanics. So that is in the roadmap, but not yet being explored much because I don't. But as far as the need that we have, that Matic helps us also to get through with whoever we want to meet, we want to connect with. Matic always is there, so they help us in beyond technology as well.
Yes, and I thought that when I was studying before the interview, I thought there's some connections definitely must have come from Matic because of the sort of the ties that they forged, the relationships that they built in the long roadmap from DeFi and beyond. So it's great that you'll be able to leverage those kinds of things as you forge ahead and trying to make real partnerships in the future, not just for that buzz. So I appreciate that a lot. Now with exchanges, again, we talked about Binance. You have a clear strong relationship with them. What about listings? You can't tell me much of what's coming up in the future, but what are you willing to comment on when it comes to exchanges more generally? You know, when we talk about liquidity, we talk about community, they all want every exchange, they all want price go up. But what would you like to say when we talk about exchanges?
So we believe that the success of for building a community, you need to spread the reach of your token and your project. So when somebody invests in your token, they don't just invest in the token, they also invest and have certain expectation from the project to deliver. So, and to do that, get that reach, you definitely have to work with some good exchanges. And we are also working with some tier one exchanges as well, very, very closely in future to work out on some mechanics in the on the token listing and mechanic and enabling it. But again, as I said, we are very, very strict on, not getting into heavy paying campaigns for exchange listing. By the way, like for example, Binance listed us purely organically. We paid $0 to Binance for listing.
Wow. Well, that doesn't happen every
So
day. Certainly some
yeah,
do from what I've
so
heard anyway.
we have let down a couple exchanges and some decent ones. I can't take names for paying. We didn't want to pay. We said we don't pay for listings. If you like the project, you want to interact with the community, you want your community to get access to it, fair enough, go ahead. We're happy to work together on some marketing and incentivization campaigns, but not for listing.
Well, I
And
really
we have
like this
let down.
conversation.
And that's the reason. Yeah.
I
So
really
we are
like
very,
this
very satisfied.
transparency.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to know. Now, what about in the future? I guess, because obviously there's been a long discussion. Clearly, there's a lot coming in your roadmap. There's all products, there's exchanges, there's going to be more community engagement. Most importantly, users, that's going to increase. Now, the thing we didn't touch on, didn't ask, and I should have, is with regard to the users. Sorry, the users who are going to be using more of the products. Surely that's the direct correlate. That's a direct correlation between that and the token value. And we can't say price, but value we can, because as more users come on board, that's going to have a direct impact on that particular utility token.
Absolutely. So as they are going to come in, so there are going to be many more not rewards exactly. Basically, there are going to be many more models that are going to be brought in for the users to sort of, when they're going to be interacting and using the product from the perspective of the token utility. So they are more invested into the product success and not go and harm the product as well. So the whole concept of proof of stake is not, so we are actually working on certain things to take it to a complete different level, taking it beyond just node protection. At the end of the day, it should also be taken up as a model to protect the protocol. So there are things that are being built upon on that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer. So the last one I wanted to ask you about with regard to thinking about the community, thinking about those who are more in the investment frame or that blockchain bet. Now, often we see that some of those early big bettors, those big backers, those big capital injections, and even some VCs, some of them do dump. That's just the reality. Now, can you talk us through that? Like, was there any negative experiences you had? Did you raise capital from the beginning? Did anyone dump and then you have to, have that price discovery subsequent? What's been the experience there? If we're thinking from the frame of, those retail investors who genuinely want to support the utility, for the future, but also make those bets subsequent.
Now, this is where the industry experience comes into play. It is because of exact these reasons. One, we did not do $1 million raise.
Mm-hmm.
Two, we did not do a community raise. We raised money from few TradeFi and CFi angels, DeFi angels, and that to be only $300,000. And that's it.
Wow.
And these people are still vested with us. They work with us thrice a week. They talk to us in defining working like a team. So we did not do any private sale, any public sale, any $1 million raises, and it was because of only this reason.
Wow, I like that. So would you say that you're a fair launch? If you're really, essentially supported by two angels, there's not a lot of incentive to kind of create some sort of a scenario or some of those very, concerning practices that we have seen with certain parties in the past, or trying to pump a coin from the beginning with certain launch pads and things like that. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you sound like you could literally constitute a fair launch in some respects, because you seem to emerge out of nowhere onto an exchange and building this utility.
Yeah, so it is not exactly a fair launch. It's more of a guarded launch.
Okay.
So when you talk about fair launch, there are no investors at all. So I would not say there are no investors.
Okay.
There are advisors who are helping us working through it, and there are allocations for them. But essentially, the whole token model is such that it restricts or limit the impact on the particular users, and all of them are vested. So we do not have tens of hundreds of funds working and stuff, because they are also supportive, but they are different models. So because we were working in a very, very different model, and so far it has been doing good for us.
Got it. And so the model
So
is
I would
long
not want to
term.
comment on the other model, because obviously those models have their own pros and cons. So every model
Yes.
has its own pros and cons.
Yes,
So
I
we
appreciate
chose to
that.
go this route.
Yeah, and I can hear from what you're saying that you are long-term focused. You did this way so you could protect the integrity of this utility, so it could be a utility for the long term and not be, thwarted by strong sentiment or the risks inherent in dumping that can happen, as you know. So I would like to say on that note, thank you so much, Ankitt, for everything. I wasn't expecting it to all go in the directions it has, but it's been really informative. It's given me more confidence, I have to say, as a result of discussing all things EasyFi with you. And definitely would love to catch up again and talk more deeply about the products, because that's what's going to be the game changer for you, I think. The protocol's done and dusted. You're working with protocols that are established. You've got coders. You're a coder. So that's giving me, that's a tick there. But what I really want to know more about is how those products unfold, so that we can really affect that key change that you want to see globally. And good luck with the regulations in India too, even though this is a global thing, because I want to see all the world benefit from what you're building in terms of products that benefit, that are about finance and changing the game when it comes to DeFi, CeFi, and everything between.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.